Assalamualaikum. I'm Dr. Abes Azad from Anatomy Department, Sahara Medical College, and today we are going to continue with the internal structure of lung. Today we are going to discuss the anatomy of tracheobronchial tree and bronchopulmonary segments, which make the structural units of the lungs. Along with that, we'll also discuss the blood supply, the nerve supply, and lymphatic drainage of lungs in detail. And in the next coming sections, we'll discuss the clinical anatomy related to the lungs. The tracheobronchial tree starts with the trachea. It is a 10 to 15 centimeter long tube which starts in the lower part of the neck as a continuation of larynx, where it starts from the lower border of cricoid cartilage at the level of 6 cervical vertebrae, and there on it enters the superior mediastinum. Then in cadaveric persons and in supine positions, the trachea ends at the level of 4th thoracic vertebrae, and it is also the level of sternal angle. In living person in erect position, especially during inspiration, this level may descend down to the lower border of a 6th thoracic vertebrae also. The relations and details of trachea have been discussed in superior mediastinum. So now we'll discuss the details of the bronchial tree. So at the level of lower border of T4 vertebrae, at sternal angle, the trachea divides into two principal bronchi, the right principal bronchus and left principal bronchus. The right one is more vertical and in line with trachea. It is 2.5 centimeter long, shorter, wider, and this point is important as the inhaled objects or the foreign bodies, they tend to pass from trachea towards the right side as it is more vertical than the left side. Left main bronchus is narrower, longer, and more oblique than the right main bronchus. It is 5 centimeter long, and here you can observe that the angle the right main bronchus is making with the trachea is almost 25 degrees, while that of the left main bronchus with the trachea is 45 degrees. Now these two will enter the hilum of the lung and divide in the tissue of the lung into secondary branches, and these depend on the number of lobes in each lung. And then further these branches divide into segmental branches, which are called segmental bronchi, 10 in each lung. And from here onward, the division within the segment of each lung will be as terminal bronchiole, respiratory bronchiole, alveolar ducts, and alveoli. The important thing before discussing the details of the structure is to demark the conducting part and the respiratory part of the tracheobronchial tree. Trachea, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi or lobar bronchi, and then the tertiary or segmental bronchi, they can come into the conducting part of the respiratory system. Along with that, the terminal bronchiole, which is the first part of the bronchiole, is also the conducting part of the respiratory system. Starting from respiratory bronchioles up to the alveoli, this part of the respiratory system makes the exchange part of the respiratory system. Another important difference observed here is that the trachea has cartilage ring, which are continued in the primary bronchi. In the secondary and tertiary bronchi, we can observe plates of cartilage present in the wall of the bronchus, but the cartilages are absent in the bronchioles. So starting from the terminal bronchiole, there is no presence of cartilage here. Now, right main bronchus entering the hilum will divide into two bronchi first, the eparterial and hyparterial bronchus. The eparterial bronchus will continue as the lobar bronchus for the superior lobe of right lung, while the hyparterial bronchus will divide into two secondary or lobar bronchi for the middle and the inferior lobe. On the left side, the left main bronchus divides into two lobar or secondary bronchi for the superior and inferior lobe of the left lung. Each lobar bronchus, after entering a lobe, will divide into tertiary bronchi or segmental bronchi. Each segmental bronchus will make up one single bronchopulmonary segment, and within that segment it will keep on dividing into smaller and smaller branches. 10 tertiary bronchi are formed in both lungs, and we will discuss the details in the next slides. On the right side, the secondary bronchus for the superior lobe is going to divide into 3 tertiary branches for the apical, posterior and anterior segment. Then the middle lobar bronchus is going to divide into 2 tertiary branches for the lateral and medial segment. And then the inferior secondary lobar bronchus is going to divide into 5 tertiary bronchi for the 5 segments of the inferior lobe: the apical, medial basal, lateral basal, anterior basal and posterior basal. On the left side, the superior lobar bronchus is going to divide into 5 tertiary bronchi for 3 segments of the superior lobe and the 2 segments of the lingual lobe. Here you can see apical, posterior, anterior of the superior lobe and the superior and inferior segments present in the lingual part. The inferior lobar bronchus is going to divide into 5 tertiary bronchi for the apical, anterior basal, posterior basal, medial and lateral basal segments of the lower lobe of left lung. From tertiary bronchi starts the main functional unit of each lung, which is known as bronchopulmonary segments. So the detail of these structures we'll discuss in the coming slides. Each lobe of the lung is divided into anatomical, functional or surgical units or segments, which are known as bronchopulmonary segments. Each bronchopulmonary segment starts from a tertiary bronchus, and then it is enwrapped by connective tissue capsule and its septa. These bronchopulmonary segments are pyramidal in shape. So the base of the segment is towards the outer side of the lung, the superficial surface, where the connective tissue capsule is lying under cover of the visceral pleura, while apex is directed deep in the tissue and lies at the level of start of tertiary bronchus at the apex. So again we observe that a bronchopulmonary segment has an apex, which is represented by entrance of the tertiary bronchus, and then it has a base which is represented by this connective tissue layer, outside of which is the visceral pleura. An important thing to remember is the relation of the different vessels within and on the boundaries of the bronchopulmonary segment. The first important thing to observe is that the bronchial arteries and the pulmonary arteries, they are associated close to the tertiary bronchus, and they are going to be distributed within the bronchopulmonary segment, while the pulmonary veins are intersegmental, that is, they are lying in the connective tissue septa, which are separating two bronchopulmonary segments. So the typical characteristics of a bronchopulmonary segments are that it is pyramidal shape with apex towards the start of the tertiary bronchus and base towards the superficial surface of the lung. Then it is aerated by one tertiary segment or segmental bronchus. Then the segmental bronchus, segmental artery, that is a tertiary branch of pulmonary artery. The autonomic nerves and lymphatic vessels are lying within the segment, while lymphatic vessels, some of them, and the pulmonary veins, they are lying in the connective tissue septa, in the intersegmental planes, which are dividing or separating two bronchopulmonary segments. In this diagram, again, in this part, we can observe that after dividing repeatedly, each tertiary bronchus or segmental bronchus is giving rise to terminal bronchiole, which are the very small branches up to 1 millimeter diameter, and the terminal bronchiole then give rise to respiratory bronchiole. End of the terminal bronchiole ends the conducting part of the respiratory system, while start of the respiratory bronchiole is the start of the exchange part or the pulmonary unit. And each respiratory bronchiole has openings, many openings of the alveolar ducts, and alveolar ducts are those parts that have that are studded with alveoli. Here you can observe, and at the end of these ducts, some alveoli, they open up as a clump in sac-like portions, which are called alveolar sacs or sacules. So this whole unit is responsible for exchange between the capillaries and the air. Naming of the bronchopulmonary segments is done on the basis of the position of tertiary bronchus arising from the secondary or lobar bronchi. And here you can observe in the superior lobe of the right lung, we have three bronchopulmonary segments, and number 1 is the apical, 2 and 3 are the anterior and posterior bronchopulmonary segments in the superior lobe. Then in the middle lobe, we have two bronchopulmonary segments. So close to the anterior border is the number 5, which is the medial bronchopulmonary segments, and the fourth one is the lateral one. Then the inferior lobe is divided into 5 bronchopulmonary segments. On the costal view, we can observe 4 of them, and the 5th one is observed on the medial surface. Now you can observe here that one is superior bronchopulmonary segment in the inferior lobe, while rest of them are the basal one. So we have anterior basal, lateral basal, posterior basal, and opposite to the lateral basal, here on the medial surface you can observe the medial basal. On the left lung, in the superior lobe, we have 5 bronchopulmonary segments. 3 of them correspond to these 3. They are apical, posterior, and anterior bronchopulmonary segments. While here we have bronchopulmonary segments in the region of lingula, so they are known as superior and inferior lingular segments, which correspond to the middle lobe. Then again on the inferior lobe, they are the same, 1 superior and 4 basal. The anterior basal, lateral basal, posterior basal, and then on the medial surface you can observe the medial basal segment. So the importance of these bronchopulmonary segment is that they are resectable units, and if any part of the lung tissue has carcinoma or is damaged, that those portion of the bronchopulmonary segments can be removed without disturbing the other segments. And the surgeon has to cut along the plane of the veins, the pulmonary veins, to resect a bronchopulmonary segment. That is the intersegmental plane or the planes of the connective tissue septa, and then cut up to its apex. Blood supply to the lungs is in 2 parts. In one part, the pulmonary arteries bring deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle of heart, and they arise from the pulmonary trunk at the level of sternal angle. After entering the hilum, the pulmonary arteries remain close to the bronchi. Each pulmonary artery divides and give rise to secondary or lobar arteries. Their number correspond to the number of the bronchi, secondary bronchi. And then each lobar artery is going to divide into tertiary branches, which are the segmental arteries. And these are the arteries. They are going to enter the bronchopulmonary segment along with the tertiary bronchus. So arteries are intrasegmental, and they are going to divide into the capillary plexus, which is present around the alveoli. Here oxygenation occurs, and then the blood is drained by the intersegmental veins or the pulmonary veins present in the connective tissue septa. So venules form tertiary pulmonary veins, from which are formed lobar veins, and then they drain into the superior and inferior pulmonary veins exiting from the hilum of each lung and draining this oxygenated blood from lungs to the left atrium of the heart. The second component are the bronchial vessels. The bronchial arteries supply oxygenated blood to the lung tissue, the bronchial tree, and the connective tissue present in the segments, and also the connective tissue capsule and the visceral pleura. There is one bronchial artery on the right side which arises from the third right posterior intercostal artery, and there are two bronchial arteries on the left side arising directly from descending thoracic aorta at the level of fifth thoracic vertebrae, and the lower one is just below the left bronchus. The bronchial vein mostly drains the part of the bronchial tree close to the hilum. That is usually the first and second divisions of the bronchi, and the rest of the venous drainage is towards the pulmonary veins. There are two bronchial veins exiting the hilum of both lungs. The two bronchial veins from the right side drain into the azygous vein directly, and the two left bronchial veins drain into accessory hemiazygous vein as shown in the diagram. At the segmental level, we can observe the bronchial artery along the bronchus and a branch of pulmonary arteries, and they already discussed that in the proximal part or hilar part, the capillary plexus is formed by the bronchial arteries drain into the bronchial veins. But here at the segmental level, we can observe that the capillary plexus formed by the bronchial arteries, they drain into the pulmonary veins present in the intersegmental region. And in the distal part, the bronchial vessel, they anastomose with the branches of pulmonary artery and also along the inner surface of the pleura, they anastomose with each other. The flow in the pulmonary vessel is also shown in this diagram. From the pulmonary artery, the capillary plexuses are formed around the alveoli. Here they are oxygenated, and then they are drained into the pulmonary veins. So in this diagram, it is also visible that the bronchopulmonary segment is drained by one branch of pulmonary artery, one tertiary bronchus, and one branch of bronchial artery, but they are drained by more than one pulmonary vein. So the drainage of adjacent bronchopulmonary segment in the veins, they overlap. Looking at the anatomy of the alveoli, we can observe that the main structure of the alveolus is formed by the type 1 alveolar cells, which seen here seem to be polygonal, but in cross section we can see that they are squamous cells. So simple squamous cells are lining the alveolar epithelium. Other than that, there are also type 2 alveolar cells, which are cuboidal cells, and they secrete surfactant, which is responsible for the surface tension in the alveoli. We can also observe capillary walls associated with the alveolar walls, making up the respiratory membrane. And here in the inset, that the respiratory membrane is formed of these layers: the endothelial wall of capillary on one side with its basal lamina, then the basal lamina of the alveolar epithelium, and then the alveolar cells, type 1 alveolar cells. So here the exchange is occurring between the blood and the air in the alveoli. We can also observe some pores in the alveolar walls, and these pores are there to equalize the pressure gradient among the alveoli. We can also observe macrophages, which are the first line defense here in the alveoli. So after this exchange, the deoxygenated blood is converted into oxygenated blood, and the pulmonary capillaries then drain into the pulmonary veins, which take the oxygenated blood towards the left atrium. Two sets of lymphatic vessels forming the two lymphatic plexuses are present in the lung. One is a superficial, which is present just under the visceral pleura, and it is draining the visceral pleura as well as the lung parenchyma. That is basically because they are close to the bases of the bronchopulmonary segments, so they drain that region. Then the second one is the deep plexus, and it is formed along the bronchial tree, and these two plexuses are finally gonna drain into the bronchopulmonary lymph nodes and then into the tracheobronchial nodes. Finally, the bronchiomediastinal trunk formed from these nodes will drain into the thoracic duct on the left side and right lymphatic duct on the right side. This diagram shows the drainage of the superficial lymphatic plexus, and here you can observe the location of the superficial lymphatics which drain in the bronchopulmonary nodes present at the hilum. They are also known as the hilar lymph nodes. Then the bronchopulmonary nodes drain into the tracheobronchial nodes. Here you can see the location of those. These are the superior tracheobronchial nodes, and these are the inferior ones, and the inferior ones are also known as the carinal lymph nodes. Further, efferents from here drain into the paratracheal lymph nodes, leading to the formation of the large lymph trunks, the bronchomediastinal lymph trunks. They drain on the left side in the thoracic duct and on the right side in the right lymphatic duct. And from here, the thoracic duct drains into the left venous angle, which is the angle between the left internal jugular vein and left subclavian, shown here before they make the brachiocephalic trunk. And then the right lymphatic duct is going to drain into the right venous angle here. The deep lymphatics lying along the walls of the branches of the bronchi, they drain into pulmonary nodes, and the pulmonary nodes are present around the tertiary bronchi and secondary bronchi, and then they drain finally into the bronchopulmonary or hilar lymph nodes present at the hilum. There onwards, the rest of the pathway is the same as that of the superficial. This is going to drain into tracheobronchial, then into the paratracheal, and finally into thoracic and right lymphatic ducts. Nerve supply, as has already been discussed with the visceral pleura, is of two types, the parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves. Parasympathetic nerves are derived from the 10th cranial nerve, vagus nerve, and they cause bronchoconstriction or bronchospasm. That is, they decrease the diameter of the tracheobronchial tree. And they are also secretomotor, that is, they increase the secretions of the mucus glands present in the mucosa of the tracheobronchial tree. Then we have sympathetic innervation derived from the second to fifth sympathetic ganglia, and they are basically the dilators of tracheobronchial tree, and they also decrease the secretions of the glands present in the mucosa of the tracheobronchial trees. Both type of nerves, they mingle around the hilum of both lungs, forming anterior and posterior pulmonary plexuses just in front and behind the lung roots. From here, branches enter the tissue of lungs along the planes of blood vessels and bronchi to innervate the deeper parts. This is a standard posterior radiograph of chest wall, and I have included this slide because this x-ray is important as it is frequently done, and also because it is important in one of the OSPI stations, it is frequently added. So talking about the bones first, the thoracic vertebrae are not very perfectly seen here as they are overlapped by the other shadows, but in the upper part we can observe their thoracic spines as well as the transverse processes of the thoracic vertebrae. We can also identify the ribs and count their number and identify the intercostal spaces here. This is the medial part of the clavicle, and this is the acromial end, which is going to make acromioclavicular joint. The joint cavity can be observed in this radiograph. Then scapula with its medial and lateral border is also observed on the periphery. Then we come to the tissues, the diaphragm. Here you can see the right and left dome of diaphragm. The right dome is higher than the left, and under the left dome of diaphragm we can observe gas, which is present in the fundus of stomach and is visible here in the radiograph as a black shadow. Here we can observe some radiographic terminologies. The right costophrenic angle is present here, which is formed between the diaphragm and the thoracic wall in this radiograph, and then the angle between the shadows of the heart and the diaphragm here on the right side is the right cardiophrenic angle, and on the left side it is the left cardiophrenic angle. These angles are important as they are blurred when there is fluid collection in the pleural cavity, like in pleural effusion, hemoperitoneum. Then markings of the root of lung are also visible here. These markings are seen because of the branches of bronchial tree and the pulmonary vessels. On the radiograph, the arch of aorta, when it is turning towards the left side, here on the left margin, it forms aortic knuckle here, and then the heart shadows shows that the upper part of the left margin is formed by the left atrium, a small part, but most of the part of the heart shadow on the left margin is formed by the left ventricle. The right margin is formed by the right atrium. So we can observe this central whitish shadow formed by the different overlapping structures present in the mediastinum. With this ends the discussion of the normal anatomy associated with lungs, and after that we will discuss the clinical anatomy. Thank you.